dream builders and inspiration boosters to turn your vision into reality. It's just a thought, but it can change your life. By John Maxwell. Life's little lessons on leadership. Introduction. Mark Twain once said, "Take your mind out every now and then and dance on it. It's getting all caked up." It's his way of saying, try something new, break new ground, get out of your rut. This is good advice for all of us. Sometimes we need something to jolt us out of a lifeless routine, a new thought, a different slant on a familiar subject, or a bit of wisdom from the life of someone who's walked down that road before we did. The quotes that follow have been selected to inspire you to see life from a different angle. Many contain a little barb or a twist to get your attention. Some will make you laugh, and others will make you think. My hope is that they will equip you to make your world better tomorrow than it is today. It's just a thought, but it could change your life. John C. Maxwell. Every person who has become successful has simply formed the habit of doing things that failures dislike doing and will not do. John Maxwell. Never let go of a dream until you're ready to wake up and make it happen. It takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that. The Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland. Practice doesn't make perfect. It makes permanent. John Maxwell. Heart is what separates the good from the great. Michael Jordan. One difference between perseverance and obstinacy is that one often comes from a strong will, and the other one from a strong won't. Henry Ward Beecher. Your attitude is either your best friend or your worst enemy. Your greatest asset or your greatest liability. John Maxwell. Don't just learn something from every experience. Learn something positive. Alan H. Newhart. When you're through changing, you're through. Bruce Barton. People are changed, not by coercion or intimidation, but by example. John Maxwell. In a small town, an old codger lived in the same house for nearly 50 years. One day, he surprised everyone by moving next door. When asked why he moved, he said, "I guess it's just the gypsy in me." It's not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves. Edmund Hillary, first to climb Mount Everest. Are you bored with life? Maybe your expector has expired. There are no shortcuts to any place worth going. Beverly Sills. One definition of insanity is to believe that you can keep doing what you've been doing and get different results. Stop trying to grow your organization. Work on people's attitudes. If you do that, your organization will experience 10% growth overnight. John Maxwell. It pays to plan ahead. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. I not only use all the brains I have, but all I can borrow. Woodrow Wilson. Leadership determines the direction of the company. Organization determines the potential of the company. Personnel determine the success of the company. John Maxwell. Ideas won't keep something. Must be done about them. Alfred North Whitehead. You've got to get up every morning with determination if you're going to go to bed with satisfaction. George Horace Lorimer. Pay now, play later. Play now, pay later. The best cure for a sluggish mind is to disturb its routine. William H. Danforth. He who is good at making excuses is seldom good for anything else. Benjamin Franklin. We first form habits, then habits form us. John Maxwell. Most people want to change the world to improve their lives. What a wasted effort. If they would only improve themselves, they would be better off, and so would the world. In youth, we want to change the world. In old age, we want to change youth. Garth Hendricks. People stop growing when the price gets too high. John Maxwell. The richest soil, uncultivated, produces the rankest weeds. Plutarch. Any time the going seems easier, better check and see if you're not going downhill. Image is what people think we are. Integrity is what we really are. John Maxwell. Every generation needs a new revolution. Thomas Jefferson. If you're not doing something with your life, It doesn't matter how long it is. Peace Corps commercial. If your vision doesn't cost you something, it's a daydream. When you don't want to do something, one excuse is as good as another. 99% of failures come from people who have the habit of making excuses. George Washington Carver. Our attitude at the beginning of a task will affect its outcome more than anything else. John Maxwell. You can impress people at a distance, but you can impact them only up close. Howard Hendricks. Our strength is seen in the things we stand for. Our weakness is seen in the things we fall for. Theodore Epp. If people respect you but don't like you, they won't stay with you. If they like you but don't respect you, they'll stay with you, but they won't follow you. To be an effective leader, you must earn both from your people. John Maxwell. 1/5 of the people are against everything all the time. Robert Kennedy. I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And that which I can do, by the grace of God, I will do. Dwight L. Moody. Your attitude is the eye of your soul. If your attitude is negative, then you see things negatively. If it is positive, then you see things positively. John Maxwell. We judge ourselves by what we feel capable of doing. Others judge us by what we have done. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. It's right to be content with what you have, never with what you are. You cannot go any higher than your self-image. No reserve, no retreat, no regrets. Bill Borden, Missionary to China, written on his deathbed. Never retreat in the face of difficulties. Advance as conditions permit. If conditions don't permit, create those conditions. A difficult crisis can be more readily endured if we retain the conviction that our existence holds a purpose, a cause to pursue, a person to love, a goal to achieve. John Maxwell. Before putting off until tomorrow something you can do today, study it closely. Maybe you can postpone it indefinitely. Don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today, because if you enjoy it today, you can do it again tomorrow. James A. Michener. A procrastinator puts off until tomorrow the things he has already put off until today. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Theodore Roosevelt. When you cease to make contribution, you begin to die. Eleanor Roosevelt. The true test of stewardship is not what your money is doing for you, but what it's doing to you. John Maxwell. Safe living generally makes for regrets later on. You miss 100% of the shots you never take. Wayne Gretzky. The greatest mistake we make is living in constant fear that we will make one. John Maxwell. Make no small plans, for they have no capacity to stir men's souls. The future belongs to people who see possibilities before they become obvious. Ted Levitt. Problems are those things we see when we take our eyes off the goal. John Maxwell. I will go anywhere as long as it's forward. David Livingstone. The man who starts out going nowhere generally gets there. Dale Carnegie. Vision adds value to everything. Opportunities are seldom labeled. John A. Shedd. The desire for safety stands against every great and noble enterprise. What I perceive determines what I receive, which determines how I achieve. John Maxwell. It takes less time to do a thing right than to explain why you did it wrong. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Between saying and doing, many a pair of shoes is worn out. Italian proverb. People do what people see. They forget your words, but follow in your footsteps. John Maxwell. If you want to make enemies, try to change something. Woodrow Wilson. Do not follow where the path may lead. Follow God instead, to where there is no path, and leave a trail. Leading others takes courage. Knowing the right decision is usually easy. Making the right decision is hard. The hottest places in hell are reserved for those who, in time of great moral crises, maintain their neutrality. Why not go out on a limb? Isn't that where the fruit is? Frank Scully. Leading followers is fast and easy, and it has little return. Leading leaders is slow and hard, and it has a great return. John Maxwell. People who never do any more than they get paid for never get paid for any more than they do. Albert Hubbard. People who live for themselves are in a mighty small business. Winners concentrate on winning. Losers concentrate on getting by. John Maxwell. Keep away from people who belittle your ambitions. Small people always do that, but the really great make you feel that too. You can become great. Mark Twain. Consider how hard it is to change yourself, and you'll understand what little chance you have of trying to change others. Jacob M. Broad. Loving people precedes leading them. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. John Maxwell. The difficulties of life are not intended to make us bitter, but make us better. Life doesn't do anything to you. It only reveals your spirit. Hurting people hurt other people. Once you learn this, it's easier to turn the other cheek. John Maxwell. Are you gonna get any better, or is this it? Baltimore Orioles manager Earl Weaver to an umpire. A rut is a grave with both ends knocked out. If you need the people, you can't lead the people. A codependent relationship seldom grows or moves forward. John Maxwell. Men will never cast away their dearest pleasures upon the drowsy request of someone who does not even seem to mean what he says. Don't ever be afraid to admit you were wrong. It's like saying you're wiser today than you were yesterday. Every change in human attitude must come through internal understanding and acceptance. Man is the only known creature who can reshape and remold himself by altering his attitude. John Maxwell. Time is neutral, but it can be made the ally of those who will seize it and use it to the full. Winston Churchill. Essentially, there are two actions in life: performances and excuses. Make a description as to which you will accept for yourself. Stephen Brown. The leader's growth determines the people's growth. John. Great minds have purposes. Others have wishes. Washington Irving. Never give up, for that is just the place and time that the tide will turn. Harriet Beecher Stowe. It's lonely at the top, so you'd better know why you're up there. John Maxwell. Excellence is the gradual result of striving to do better. Pat Riley. A good heart is better than all the heads in the world. Edward Bulwer Lytton. It's wonderful when the people believe in their leader. It's more wonderful when the leader believes in the people. John Maxwell. Only the person who has faith in himself is able to be faithful to others. Erich Fromm. Learning what you cannot do is more important than knowing what you can do. Lucille Ball. Leadership functions on the basis of trust. When trust is gone, the leader soon will be. John Maxwell. When was the last time that you did something for the first time? 90% of the work done in this country is done by people who don't feel well. Theodore Roosevelt. Nothing is as hard as it looks. Everything is more rewarding than you expect. And if anything can go right, it will, and at the best possible moment. Maxwell's Law. Difficulties mastered are opportunities won. Winston Churchill. Commitment in the face of conflict produces character. People buy into the leader before they buy into the leader's vision. If you want to lead, you must sell yourself. John Maxwell. Anyone who has made a mistake and doesn't correct it is making another one. You never have to recover from a good start. Admit your failures quickly and humbly. The people already know when you've erred, but they'll appreciate your right spirit. John Maxwell. The harder you work, the harder it is to surrender. Vince Lombardi. Persistence is stubbornness with a purpose. Rich DeVos. Never take shortcuts. They don't pay off in the long run. John Maxwell. One cannot leap a chasm in 2 jumps. Winston Churchill. Read the books first, or you may not have a chance to read them at all. Henry David Thoreau. Where there is no hope in the future, there is no power in the present. John Maxwell. God never puts anyone in a place too small to grow. Christians are supposed not merely to endure change nor even profit by it, but to cause it. Harry Emerson Fosdick. I teach what I know, but I reproduce what I am. John Maxwell. Your friends will stretch your vision or choke your dream. Look carefully at the closest associations in your life, for that is the direction you are heading. People are your only appreciable asset. John Maxwell. Life is a lot like tennis. The one who can serve best seldom loses. The measure of a life, after all, is not its duration, but its donation. Corrie ten Boom. Leadership is servanthood. Observance of this truth keeps your motives pure and protects you from ambition. It also makes you like Jesus. John Maxwell. When God measures a man, he puts the tape around his heart, not his head. And if you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you're right. Mary K. Ash. Problems are not your problems. It's not what happens to you, but what happens in you that matters. John Maxwell. Experience is knowing a lot of things you shouldn't do. William Knudsen. The young man knows the rules, but the old man knows the exceptions. Oliver Wendell Holmes. Most people are educated way beyond their level of obedience. John Maxwell. Progress always involves risks. You can't steal second and keep your foot on first. Frederick Wilcox. All life is the management of risk, not its elimination. Walter Wriston. Timing is everything. The right setup will keep an organization from having a wrong setback. John Maxwell. The difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. Mahatma Gandhi. If we did all the things we are capable of doing, we would literally astonish ourselves. Thomas Edison. To lead others to do right is wonderful. To write and then lead them is more wonderful and harder. John Maxwell. A determined person is one who, when they get to the end of their rope, ties a knot and hangs on. Joe L. Griffith. Above all, try something. Franklin D. Roosevelt. God chooses what we go through. We choose how we go through it. John Maxwell. Nobody really gets to run the mill by doing run-of-the-mill work. Thomas J. Fry. You have to give up to go up. David Jeremiah. Respect is vital to a leader. Without it, no one knows, follows. Title or position will not help it. With it, everyone follows, and title or position are not needed. John Maxwell. I make progress by having people around me who are smarter than I am, and listening to them, and I assume that everyone is smarter about something than I am. Henry Kaiser. Progress is a tide. If we stand still, we will surely be drowned. To stay on the crest, we have to keep moving. Harold Mayfield. Those closest to the leader determine his level of success or failure. Mentoring potential leaders ensures the leader and the organization of reaching their potential. John Maxwell. My God-given talent is my ability to stick with something longer than anyone else. Herschel Walker. Heisman Trophy winner. A great man stands on God. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The gift is greater than the leader. God's anointing upon our lives points to his greatness, not ours. John Maxwell. Never, never, never stop growing. Plateaus should only be found in geography books, not in personal experience. One who gains strength by overcoming obstacles possesses the only strength which can overcome adversity. Albert Schweitzer. Break. Do you enjoy the quotes inside of this audiobook? Please click subscribe below for more audiobooks like this, and check out my storm chasing videos. Thank you. End break. Leading people is a responsibility, not a perk. To whomever much is given, much is required. John Maxwell. Life is 10% what you make it, and 90% how you take it. Irving Berlin. To err is human, but when the eraser wears out ahead of the pencil, you're overdoing it. Jerry Jenkins. Jesus is my best friend. At times I have failed people. At times people have failed me. But Jesus never fails. John Maxwell. There are a lot of ways to become a failure, but never taking a chance is the most successful. Life is like a taxi. The meter just keeps a ticking whether you are getting somewhere or just standing still. Lou Erickson. You are only an attitude away from success. John Maxwell. Make sure the thing you're living for is worth dying for. Charles Mays. People will work 8 hours a day for pay, 10 hours a day for a good boss, and 24 hours a day for a good cause. Success isn't accumulating possessions, wealth, or power. Success is obeying God. It means having those closest to you love and respect you the most. John Maxwell. The chief way you and I are disloyal to Christ is when we make small what he intended to make large. Stanley Jones. When someone puts a limit on what you will do, that person has put a limit on what you can do. See your people as they could be, not as they are. Don't think much of a person who is not wiser today than he was yesterday. Most of the things worth doing in the world had been declared impossible before they were done. Louis D. Brandeis. The next time you go looking for a book written by an expert, find out if the author's ever actually done what he's proposing. John Maxwell. Most people spend more time planning Christmas than they do planning their lives. Very often, a change of self is needed, more than a change of scene. Benson. The attitude of your people is a reflection of your attitude. John Maxwell. When the eagles are silent, the parrots begin to chatter. Winston Churchill. Often, a leader's greatest challenge is dealing with the multitudes of people, oblivious to the obvious. Pastors shouldn't preach another sermon until the people they lead do what they've been asked to do in the last one. John Maxwell. World records are only borrowed. Sebastian Coe, British middle distance runner. If something has been done a particular way for 15 or 20 years, it's a pretty good sign in these changing times that it is being done the wrong way. Elliot M. Estes. The question is not, are you going to fail? The question is, how are you going to handle your failure? John Maxwell. If at first you do succeed, try something harder. Success in life comes not from holding a good hand, but in playing a poor hand well. Dennis Waitley and Rem L. Witt. Life is not a dress rehearsal. John Maxwell. We are living in days of change. My grandfather had a farm. My father had a garden, but I've got a can opener. We cannot become what we need to be by remaining what we are. Get a life of your own. Where's the joy in inheriting someone else's? John Maxwell. If in the last few years you haven't discarded a major opinion or acquired a new one, check your pulse. You may be dead. Gillett Burgess. Any business or industry that pays equal rewards to its goof-offs and its eager beavers sooner or later will find itself with more goof-offs than eager beavers. Mike Delaney. Average has become so bad that a person can just show up to get to the head of the class. John Maxwell. Most people are more comfortable with old problems than with new solutions. Be willing to give up all that you now know, or all to be that you can become. Growth is a process. Death may be automatic, but growth is not. John Maxwell. We know what happens to people who stay in the middle of the road. They get run over. Anirin Bevan. Deliberation is the work of many men, action of one alone. Charles de Gaulle. If you keep doing what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. John Maxwell. The average person goes to his grave with his music still in him. Oliver Wendell Holmes. Most of us must learn a great deal every day in order to keep ahead of what we forget. Frank A. Clark. You cannot overestimate the unimportance of practically everything. John Maxwell. All accomplishment comes from daring to begin. 80% of success is just showing up. Woody Allen. Many people go far in life because someone else thought they could. John Maxwell. If you're looking for a big opportunity, seek out a big problem. The fewer the words, the better the prayer. Martin Luther. If you want to help others, don't just know your faith, show your faith. John Maxwell. No man ever listened himself out of a job. Calvin Coolidge. Everyone must row with the oars he has. English Proverbs. Circumstances do not make you what you are, they reveal what you are. John Maxwell. Walk so close to God that you leave no room for the devil. If you don't do your homework, you won't make your free throws. Larry Bird. Are you feeling far from God? Guess who moved? John Maxwell. He who never walks except where he sees other men's tracks will make no discoveries. If your horse is dead, for goodness sake, dismount. Eddie Ketchersid. To go nowhere, follow the crowd. Restlessness is discontent, and discontent is the first necessity of progress. Show me a thoroughly satisfied man, and I will show you a failure. Thomas Edison. Inspiration without perspiration is a daydream. Perspiration without inspiration is a nightmare. Anytime you let up, expect letdown. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. George Bernard Shaw. The world is moving so fast these days that the man who says it can't be done is generally interrupted by someone else doing it. Elbert Hubbard. People are like rubber bands. They must be stretched to be effective. John Maxwell. The reason so many people never get anywhere in life is because when opportunity knocks, they are out in the backyard looking for four-leaf clovers. Walter P. Chrysler. Everything comes to him who hustles while he waits. Thomas Edison. Leadership development is a lifetime journey, not a weekend trip. John Maxwell. You have never tested God's resources until you have attempted the impossible. Achievers are not only persistent, they are also hard workers who believe in themselves. Timothy L. Griffith. Winners achieve only when they feel like it. Winners achieve even when they don't. John Maxwell. A thoroughbred horse never looks at the other horses. It just concentrates on running the fastest race it can. Henry Fonda. The farsighted tend to get blindsided by the nearsighted. Those who follow the crowd will never be followed by a crowd. John Maxwell. If we study the giants, we are less apt to be pygmies. You must have a long-range goals to keep you from being frustrated by short-range failures. Charles C. Noble. Decisions are made in a moment, but growth comes from daily discipline. The end. If you liked this presentation, please click the subscribe button